differently? What are the priority picks for them?
Well, for the side of SK, I think you allow those late game picks to go through. You're not going to be really worried about a late game pick because you know that you are a much stronger team in the early game. And Salty Potatoes, they're going to have to take away early game picks. If they allow SK to build an early game composition, they're going to be in for a world of trouble.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see whether they're going to be able to get that early game composition. Do we think Salty Potatoes might have to lean towards the early game themselves?
I don't know. I don't know if they're good with it. Like I said, I think they should stick to what they're good at and not try to force an early game. If they don't know how to force objectives, they're not using minion candy strategically, etc. They need to ban Grace here because Grace on SK is extremely strong. They ran Grace in a lane. Grace is extremely strong early, and SK just knows how to leverage the Grace early game potential. As soon as she gets level 6, they use that to get kills, get turrets, and continue to snowball and push objectives. So let's see if this Grace ban's going to come out. They're going to say ban the Vox. So that means SK is going to pick up the Grace immediately here. And then Salty Potato will probably pick up the Lyra and try to again work an early and late game composition against the Grace.
Grace, obviously, Raph more than happy to run with this hero. Able to find a lot of utility out of it in the previous games. So Lyra, of course, it does get picked up. There's Batiste banned away. It's a little interesting because, Tyrus, while he can play a strong Batiste, it's not really something that he, leans towards. Usually it's the Scarf or the Samuel, things of that nature, or even Grumpjaw if the situation calls for it. So Black Feather taken away. They're going to let the Salty Potatoes have their Kestrel.
Yeah, they're going to pick up, Kestrel will probably be picked up here. And then I think SK may opt for Adagio or, Fortress.
Well, we said they wanted to go early
with
game.
Scarf. They're going to do the Fortress Scarf combo that they did before. Or Samuel, there we go. This worked. It's a weapon Grace. Fortress counters Kestrel because of the wolves. And then Samuel can just rain damage from behind.
All right, so we've already seen them go with this one. The weapon Grace in lane going into the hands of K. Volafar. Bacon's not a fan, but they managed to get the win with it. So, you can't argue with the results at the end of the day. What are Salty Potatoes going to have to go with here to finish out this composition?
They need something that's not really directional. They need something that can dive into backlines and get a lot of work done. Because if you go with anything that's directional damage, it's just going to get body blocked up by this Grace on the front lines. You want to have something that can go hard into the Samuel, try and force him out of position. Maybe something like a Glaive would work here for them. It's just you need some kind of crowd control because they really don't have any. The Sky is one that can get onto the backlines, can have a little bit of crowd control. It's going to become very much about that skill matchup, though, as it almost always is with a Sky.
Yeah, they're going to pick Sky to counter specifically the carry Grace, so they can focus just the front line and blow the front line down, up.
All right, so make sure that when they do jump on in and try and force the issue, this team is going to be able to kite back and hopefully bring them down before they drop themselves. So what's the expectation for this game then? I'd assume that it'd be SK on the aggression, on the front foot, as we always see SK. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're going to play more offensive and like 3-item Grace, not as much defense, Fortress with the Aftershock. They want to blow someone up immediately against Lyra. You don't want to play a sustained game against a Lyra comp. You want to blow them up. So I think if SK executes part, they can win the early game in Snowball. But if they let this get to late game and Sky gets late game, it'll be a tough one. Kestrel late game too is really strong.
Yeah, huge amount of damage can come out of the lineup for Salty Potatoes. We'll see if SK can deal with it. And if SK can control the game like we're used to seeing them do. Let us know who you're supporting on Twitter using that hashtag Vainglory8. Get involved online. But it's time to jump into our European final between SK Gaming and Salty Potatoes.
Salty Potato is my team to watch here, AJ. Tweeted about it earlier. I think these guys are pretty good, and right now they're certainly proving it. SK, these are the powerhouses of Europe. They will be looking to put up a great challenge to the Salty Potatoes.
This is going to be an interesting game, too, just by virtue of the compositions that we have coming out here. We saw Kvalifar be successful with this Lane Grace yesterday, but this time around, he's playing Lane Grace into a Sky, and Sky, although everyone knows, Sky is very good against the Captain Grace, I think will also be very effective against Lane Grace and just in general Weapon Grace. So we'll see if that pans out. I also think that of the carries you could put against a Grace, Kestrel is probably one of the better ones. Grace does not really have any way of moving around an active camo trap safely. So if Sneaky is positioning properly, could make life very difficult for Kvalifar. This all sort of screams to me that SK needs to, for a start, really have a pace-setting attitude in this game. They need to be very aggressive and try and close things out before Salty Potato hits their late-game spikes. But also, I think that perhaps the game is going to be largely about whether or not they can abuse Salty Potatoes indirectly by forcing them into awkward situations or positions or bad rotations. Because if you just try and straight up initiate into Salty Potatoes, you're going to have problems that Kvalifar struggles to solve, and by virtue of that, Tyrus is going to struggle to capitalize on the space Kvalifar is creating, because he won't really be creating space.
Fortress pick for Raph makes a lot of sense. It's basically reveals where Sneaky is going in the middle team fight, since he can active camo at will. The Fortress puppies, the attack of the pack, kind of just follows him around. Joker on this Sky can slow down perhaps the aggression that comes out of Kvalifar and Raph, but it can't stop it. And that's kind of the issue, is that SK have drafted this composition that just wants to go full speed ahead. Going to be really just trying to jump as quickly onto the Kestrel and Sky and put as much pressure down. Does look like Salty Potato is going to secure this central tree, but at what cost? SK want the kills here. The Drifting Dark does expire, but here comes Kvalifar around the side, and that's going to be a kill going over two Tyras. The Joker, I don't think he escapes this, but he's going to make his move, at least attempt it. No, Kvalifar will find the auto attack and the kill. 2-0 to SK. Salty Potatoes falling behind.
Yeah, and I think Kvalifar and the rest of SK are pretty happy to make that trade. Kvalifar did have to give up some lane CS, but more than worth it, I think. Especially if we actually see some additional pressure being followed up with by SK here. It was possible that Joker could have picked up a kill there, I think. It didn't quite pan out as nicely as he would have liked. But they do get the Trant, so things actually end up fairly close. Now that Kvalifar has picked up the lane wave, you can see that SK did come out net ahead off the back of that fight. You mentioned earlier the Fortress making a lot of sense. You kind of saw there, how effective it can be. Did a lot of work for SK in just engaging that fight. Between Raph's Fortress and Kvalifar's Grace, they do have a lot of ability just to dive in. Gotta be careful about it being cancelled out by the Lyra or avoided by the Kestrel and the Sky. Item-wise, I think that, oh, hang on, Sneaky.
Yes, Sneaky in a bit of trouble. Classed, able to get him out to safety, but look at the Malice of Verdicts that Tyra's outputting. Classed and Sneaky both very low here, and the Fortress movement speed for his allies when charging towards a target. When we get into these all-out team fights, AJ will actually just allow Kvalifar to stick to his target so easily. He's going in, they're looking for class, but they're not going to quite commit to a turret dive.
Yeah, the Fortress is kind of the glue for this comp, because as I said, I think Kvalifar is really going to have a tough time in a vacuum getting onto the targets and being effective. But with the move speed and war treads as well, he should still be able to do things. Plus, we might see him transition towards a more utilitarian build later on. Picking up an Echo, for example, is something we saw from him previously. If that happens, it's less about whether or not he can stay on a target and more about whether or not he can force them to burn mobility spells so that Tyrus can actually land his abilities afterwards. Right now, lots of damage.
Classed almost dead here. Tyra's one more Malice, and there it is. Able to find the kill on to Class there. Now Sneaky and the Joker with the hard task of trying to defend this turret. Clearing the wave as quickly as possible, but look at Raph diving in. Joker in trouble as well, as SK just split the threat between the two members of Salty Potatoes. They're not going to be able to secure the turret off this push, but Raph has made his way to the shop to buy a fountain, and Classed isn't going to have one available. So there is kind of a chance to turret dive here if they wanted to. They have that regen that can come through.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think that right now SK's bet, though, is to try and just invade the jungle and slow down Joker. Taking a turret is a little risky. You never know what's going to happen. Joker's now level 6. Death from above can really shut down that kind of play. Whereas if you just try and steal away jungle camps, you're forcing Salty Potatoes to fight you in a position where they don't have backup from a turret. And I do think that in a straight-up fight, at least for now, SK has a noticeable advantage. going to be even bigger once Kvalifar hits 6, which he's about halfway to. Start shoving this wave up, trying to hit that point ASAP, so they can actually make those group rotations.
It's a tough start for the Salty Potatoes. They are really just finding themselves the victims of the aggression from SK so far. Joker finishes his Frostburn. Tyras is considerably ahead already in his build. Going to be looking to try and finish that that Broken Myth before the Joker. Joker may even be forced to go either harvest, or be interested to see what happens. Consistently just stealing away this front treant away from Joker. Just puts Salty Potatoes a little bit behind every single time. Class face checking a bush. Oh, the Oblivion just sidestepped. The Class now has to escape these Malice and Verdicts, and look at the damage he can put out. It's just insane from Tyras. Oh no!
What?
That was a benediction onto Sneaky!
What?
And the Retribution, the AoE found the auto attack. Oh, that is hard to eat right there. Hard to swallow.
Damn, that was brutal. Oh man, Benediction's a good ability, Yalsi.
It's a good ability.
So much work.
Oh,
that?
that is insane! Sneaky! Can he escape Joker? Can he escape? Surreal questions being asked here. Class comes through with a fountain to try and keep Salty Potatoes in this one. SK, though, they are very happy to just walk away from this. Kvalifar is just looking for the next benediction. With that tension bow, it just does so much burst. He has Sorrow Blade ready to go as soon as he makes it to a shop. Finishes it off. See that minion candy coming down. Class in a bit of trouble. Tyra's looking for the kill. Can't quite get in range, but finally for SK, they've done enough work to secure themselves a turret and a 2,000 gold lead.
You know, my point earlier about just pressuring the jungle is invalidated when you realize that Kvalifar can deal 400 damage bursts like that. That's disgusting, and it's splash damage too. So he's actually hitting a number of people, making it really difficult for Salty Potatoes to even react. This game is teetering on the edge of Snowball. You know, it could really get out of hand in like the next 4 or 5 minutes if SK finds maybe 2 more plays like the last one, which, given the map being opened up by taking the first turret, they're not in a bad position to do. Now, for you guys who maybe haven't seen Weapon Power Grace so much, it's big to notice that, you know, this is all happening with just Tension Bow Sorrow Blade. You know, Tension Bow.
Wait, with Tension Bow, he only just finished the Sorrow Blade.
Yeah. You know, Tension Bow does so much work on this hero. Really, really effective. He's actually got Infusion in his inventory, too. Yeah. Imagine if he popped it prior to going on the Joker. Could have been crazy.
Insane. Too crazy. This is and for SK, they just transition Kvalifar into a bit more of a supportive role once Tyros is at the position when he can hard carry. In fact, yesterday he picked up an Echo on his weapon power lane. Grace trust it to Kvalifar to take a melee captain hero and play it in the lane to such success. Basically, Grace the new Lance, it seems here. SK tried to pioneer the weapon power Grace very early on into a release on Tyras. It took them a little while to figure out that it was Kvalifar who needed to play it. Salty Potatoes pushing SK off the turret. SK do fall back. They don't quite have the best of kite, SK, so very important that they're the ones making the aggressive moves with this Fortress, with this Grace, and all that damage onto Sneaky. Fountains pop, Sneaky's in trouble. Oh, Class will put himself in front of the Malice and Verdicts to keep his carry alive, but the turret, it will not remain alive. Kvalifar will heal himself up, and SK just walk away with yet another objective.
Watching this makes me sick, Dalsy. This is ridiculous damage coming out of Kvalifar. He is half health and Sneaky. It's a point and tap ability. You know, it's not something you can avoid. It's not a skill shot. it's just I tap on you and you die, which is gnarly. And, you know, Tyrus, for him, Malice and Verdict might as well be point and tap. He lands 90% of them. So basically you're guaranteeing that right off the bat, someone on the side of Salty Potatoes is going to be going down, which forces a very early Fountain from the side of Class. You know, Fountain, when it has to be popped like this due to burst, loses a lot of its efficacy. Because ideally you want to use it when your whole team is low. But because Kvalifar is just diving in and dealing mostly damage to one target in a lot of these situations, because these Salty Potatoes do need to split up and avoid being splashed on, they're only finding the heal onto one person. Their Fountain is doing a lot less than the Fountain of SK Gaming. They do have a broken myth now on Joker. That is a good pickup. He is not the main target in a lot of these fights. It's typically been Kestrel or Lyra. So maybe he can turn things around. Got to keep our eye on Joker in this next fight.
Class down. Solo already, and Sneaky, he's just tanking up Samuel's damage. That is so much from Samuel. Tyras cannot allow this man to do what he just did there. 5 broken myth stacks. He's going to look to try and take this turret with the rest of his guys. Joker doing his best to clear the way, but the minion candy makes it hard to do so. 11-minute choke point turret. SK, it's no wonder North American team said these are the guys to watch out for at the last Unified Western Live Championships. SK are going to certainly be trying to turn heads once more as we move on to the Summon ones in just a month's time.
All right, so it's only 12 minutes into the game. Kraken is still 3 minutes away, and there's already 3 turrets taken by SK. This is when the mettle of the team is really tested, because they need to figure out how to continue accruing advantages. Otherwise, you know, Joker and Sneaky can't outscale them. But where do you go, right? It's pretty difficult to push under 2 turrets. It's also pretty challenging to necessarily fight under the sentry and around the amount of walls that are by the sentry, because Joker can get over them very easily. Lyra Arcane Passage can really make the fight messy, and it can be challenging to find the openings that you're looking for, although Salty Potatoes got to be careful here.
Yeah, Class a little bit caught out, down to half HP. Orchards was popped by Raph to try and get them in, but, you know, this is what they're doing. They're just minion cannoning these waves continuously, AJ. We haven't seen, I don't think, much priority on minion candy as a whole here in Europe whatsoever, but SK certainly have figured out exactly how they can use it. They can use it to force macro rotations. Every single time they can force basically the map rotation from a team that's behind by making the wave push in towards the base. It opens up the map. Either it's a turret that they can take easier because the minion candy makes the minions tankier, as Class just gets deleted once more. Holy crap. And now Joker chasing goes down. That is just misposition from Salty Potatoes. It's either minions that are super tanky and can't be cleared well, or it's minions that you are forced to clear quickly, or they get to your turret, and just continuous buffing from Raph.
Oh man, all right. So next game, I think we got to start talking about the draft. You know, I would definitely not let the Grace through. You never know if it's going to be on. Oh, never mind. Maybe I was trying to make a joke, but Salty Potatoes don't like that. They want to take down Kavalifar.
That was just a bit of BM for SK, I think, to chase basically to the edge of the healing platform.
Yeah, it is a little bit far. A little bit risky. They're going to have to back up here. Only around a minute till the Kraken, though. I cannot see them not just capitalizing on that straight away. Trying to pick it up, force Salty Potatoes into do-or-die territory.
I love it. You may not be able to see it, but Raph has just candied the wave once more. And look at where the wave is currently positioned. It's positioned right down, so he's candying the next wave, which means that Salty Potatoes have to force it. He's just continuously having 4 in his inventory, and it forces Salty Potatoes to move towards that back port of the map. It keeps them locked up, and SK allows them to buy themselves vision and really just try and take over the areas of the map that they want to play in.
Yeah, I love using the minion candy as basically, you know, a carrot for the enemy team, like go deal with this minion wave. Meanwhile, I'm going to get scout traps down on your back camps because you're busy up in the lane. That kind of stuff really can be the difference between winning or losing a game, actually, because vision is so critical. SK, they're going to very efficiently pick up this last gold mine here. Kraken is about to spawn. Again, I don't see Salty Potatoes being able to win a fight over it right now. Really going to be reliant on, I think, Joker. He's the key person for me. Going to have great positioning. Going to have to hit SK from the flank. If you can force SK to split focus, or if you can force them to split position even, could be in a good spot.
Our Salty Potatoes are so pushed up here. SK are just going to initiate immediately. Look at Sneaky's health bar. It's melting. Gets the fountain as Class just body blocks the Malice and Verdicts. Raph will go very low, but it's not low enough. Joker, he cannot escape Kavalifar, and Tyras finds the kill. Raph just running, but only to his death. SK find the kills, and Ace at 15 minutes. Who cares about the Kraken? They've got minion candies, and they've got a buffed up wave about to hit the turrets. They're going to finish this one right here, right now. SK, such dominance in a 10-0 game, a completely flawless round from them here. And in game 2, Salty Potatoes are really going to have to figure out how to take down this early aggression from SK.
This week, SK have looked like the old Team Secret in Europe. You know, they've had that kind of dominant performance up until now. Maybe Salty Potatoes can change my perspective in next game, but I'm starting to see SK as a team that's looking to build a legacy again.
We'll have to see if that legacy can be built, if they can lock themselves into first spot up there with Fnatic. Either way, Game 2 on the cards in just a bit. Let's see what the analysts have to make of SK's performance.
I thought this would be another day of super close games, but that's not the first perfect game we've seen on the Halcyon Fold here today. SK showing us how you play an early game aggressive composition, finishing in 15 minutes flat. Phenomenal performance. And that's kind of what we've come to expect from SK at this stage.
Yeah, their play so aggressive, and against teams that struggle in the early game, they are just going to dominate them and absolutely roll over their opponents. That's exactly what just happened in Game 1. Even with a weapon Grace, they're able to make it look like a very powerful pick. It works in this composition. It's a pick that I still do not recommend that others go out and try and mimic, but it is for SK something that they have found a way to make it work.
Yeah, they do a good job with those early rotations, and look at that damage. 365 weapon bar damage onto that Lyra there. That was insane. But SK does such a good job. They get 2 kills with Saw 3 on rotations. They get first turret at 745, the second turret at 945, 4k gold lead, and then just follow up again. Minion Candy to wave. Raph did a really good job. Third turret, 5k gold lead, and then a nice fight at the 13-minute mark. Look at the combo they do here. Grace goes in, Samuel goes in, Fortress goes in, B combo slow. They keep up the pressure. Like, you can see the damage being built. This is exactly what I meant by last game when Clash did not do this. Like, this is how you play Grace. You go in, she's a dive comp, Fortress wants to dive, Samuel slows, everyone just combos their slows and abilities really, really well. And this is why SK, you know, did awesome this game against Salty Potatoes.
Yeah, they certainly did. And Salty Potatoes, once again, having a fairly late game oriented composition, but there's just no time to get online. There's no way that they're able to get towards that late game, and they are going to be shut down in the end by SK, but they still have another game in the series to pull themselves back. Maybe they can turn it into 2 more games in this next one, but certainly after that performance, they've got their work cut out for them.
Yeah, they really need to rethink the way that they approach the early game. Unfortunately, that's a drastic change. It's not something that is really going to be easy to do over the course of one series. So it's not looking very good for Salty Potatoes in this finals. And SK, as long as they just go for another early aggressive composition, I feel like they should be able to take this pretty easily.
Yeah, this is why the slow-paced passive EU meta just does not work when they face NA. So SK and Fnatic are probably the 2 best teams, but SK especially, they are running aggressive early game comps and just running and playing to their win conditions. You know, they got 3 turrets within 12 minutes. That's how you play early game, and that's what a lot of EU teams need to learn.
So my question then is, if you're Salty Potatoes or you're just a player wanting to jump into solo queue or duo queue with your friends and things, like, how do you play against an early game composition like this? How do you defend yourself so that you don't just get rolled over?
Well, you need to look at items. You need to counter Minion Candy with Minion Candy. You need to hold your wave. It's good wave control and just protect your turrets. Because as soon as you lose your first turret, second turret, you're going to play from behind. It's really risky.
Yeah, it's about the rotations as well. Being able to move and get yourself into the lane when your opponents are trying to push, that you're there to answer. And that's really where Salty Potatoes, I think, has been lacking the most, is in this rotational kind of gameplay.
All right, so making sure that you're in the right place on the map. Well, Grace is going to be taken off the board to start this draft off by Salty Potatoes. And SK taking a while to consider what they actually want to ban out here, deciding what it is that Salty Potatoes have been leaning on that they can maybe
Probably
deny.
Baron. They're probably going to ban Baron here and not give it over to Salty Potatoes. Oh, they're going with the Lyra, actually. So Salty Potatoes will probably pick up the Baron here, I'm assuming, because it's open, and the SK will probably take Idris to counter against it. So let's see how this draft's going to play out.
Yeah, the Baron first pick is definitely an option, but we've seen a lot of teams actually, shy away from the Baron first pick on A side, just because it is going to be answered almost certainly with an Idris immediately after. And Salted Potatoes, they're putting a lot of thought into this one. Obviously, they know the Baron is strong, but they're going to go ahead and secure themselves the Black Feather, which has been so crucial for them in their wins.
Yeah, I feel like the Black Feather pick has been the linchpin for Salty Potatoes. It's something that both Sneaky and Joker are very proficient on. It's a flex for them, but also it kind of denies the Baron pick from your opponent to some extent because it is very good. Obviously, SK not feeling too intimidated by the pick, though.
Yeah, they're just going to go ahead, grab themselves the Baron, ban away the Idris, so now it's not going to be the Black Feather Idris chance for Salted Potatoes. The Kestrel is still going to be available. I would assume SK is going to let that one go through.
Yeah.
They're not going to... I would be stunned if they do decide to run a Baron Kestrel. But the Batiste banned away by Salted Potatoes because they're very likely looking for that Kestrel.
Yeah, I was going to say that they need to ban Batiste because SK's Raph is amazing on Captain Batiste. And it's just such a good pick on B-side with Baron to counter like assassins, etc., and protect Baron from a melee perspective. So Batiste was a very smart ban. I think SK here will potentially pick up either Arden or Catherine because they can then save that last jungle counter pick.
Yeah, for sure. And we could even see that Baron Sky composition that we've been seeing as of late. Arden is going to be the lock-in. I mean, Arden or Catherine, you know Raph is going to do a sick job protecting his carries there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Arden is incredibly talented. Raph is on the Arden. So the gauntlets are almost always in beautiful positions. It can force out either the reflex blocks or abilities, in the case of Black Feather, force him to have to use that Rose Offensive if he wants to be involved.
Yeah, and a Vanguard on Baron is going to protect him and keep melee off him, but Black Feather can close the gap of Rose Offensive. So I think here they need to pick a heavy dive composition. So potentially, if they want to, Taka would be good into this because Taka and Black Feather can both dive onto Baron and blow him up and force Baron to buy defense. I'm surprised a lot of teams aren't playing Taka into Baron. But let's see what they're going to decide. Maybe they're going to CP Black Feather, which most likely will be the case. If that's the case, then they need to go with like a glaive lane weapon power hero, for example. They could try Gwen, but the way that Gwen has been played in EU, I'm not a big fan of it. And I don't think Kestrel would work. So Catherine is going to be picked up here, which is good because you can land Silence, Echo, and a no wave will be really tough. So let's see what weapon power lane they're going to go with. Glaive would be great here because of the stuns.
Vox has also made it all the way through the draft.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Vox.
It's not something that we see make it through the draft that often. Scarf looks the pick, though, which means it's likely Sneaky on that Black Feather. Sky instantly locked in from SK.
Yeah, Sky Baron has been so well into these compositions that have to go aggressive. The Catherine and Black Feather can dive in, but then they can immediately reposition themselves further back and prevent the Scarf from being able to be involved in the fight because his allies are going to get too far ahead of him, and it's a serious risk for the side of Salted Potatoes of if they go in full and engage and Scarf isn't able to keep up with them.
Yeah, we'll see how this one's going to pan out, but it's definitely a much more late-game composition from SK. It's not this same hyper-aggressive early composition we saw in Game 1. Do you feel like that lends to Salty Potatoes' playstyle a little bit better? A
little bit, but their SK has a better late-game comp. I mean, Sky is good into Catherine and a weapon Black Feather. Arden can block the Scarf skill shots, and Baron will blow up Scarf because Scarf can't build that much defense, needs more offense. So I've pretty sure SK got this game.
Not only that, but early game, before Black Feather has his Rose Offensive, a Sky rotating up from the jungle, landing a forward barrage with Baron jump jets forward and hitting that double rocket can blow up a Black Feather before he has the ability to just Rose Offensive out of trouble.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that SK even still will be able to take the early game and snowball themselves.
All right, well, we'll see. SK definitely the favorites coming on into this one. I don't think anyone's surprised to hear me say those words, but it's time to find out if they can live up to their name and get themselves a win on the board. Hashtag Vainglory 8. Let us know whether you believe in the SK victory here or whether you think Salty Potatoes are going to push this further. It's time to jump into the second game of our final between Salty Potatoes and SK Gaming.
Sneaky on his signature hero of Black Feather, always a treat to see him bring it to the Halcyon Fold. But against the Baron, Sky, and Arden, it's a tough composition to face into. SK once more with a fabulous draft.
Yeah, I really like the draft coming out of SK here, Dalsy. I feel like they have so much raw power packed onto their team. They're going to have good odds just based on that. I think the Arden is great glue. You know, yeah, that's one thing SK does really nicely. Their captain picks are always great at facilitating what the carries need and want to accomplish. I feel like they're one of the teams who picks their captains the best. On the other side, though, I mean, Saltipotatos very linearly are going to be stronger and stronger every minute of the game. So if they can get late enough, I do think they're in a good position. I do think Scarf can be pretty effective. Kavalifar, he's playing the lane Baron not unlike a North American Baron laner. He's playing pretty loose with his jump jets already. I like it. I like it, Kavalifar. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, it's always great to see when people play the Baron very aggressively, understanding those jump jets can just provide so much damage output. And you have them up so often if you're continuously using your auto attacks to reset the cooldown and reduce it. Nikki here, kind of known for his Black Feather, but especially his Black Feather is unique. He prioritizes a lot of defensive stats over offensive stats, often finishing both defensive items before he finishes his third offensive. So really just likes to prioritize being able to take a lot of damage and really be that front line for his team. And actually that can work out really well, especially if Joker's untouched on the back line and is able to kind of just play from range. That's something that Salty Potatoes need in a Black Feather.
I'm pretty interested to see how the jungle pans out this game, Dalsy, because I think on paper, both of these captains are good enough at just interrupting fights that neither team really wants to be the initiator, and both are probably going to play pretty safely, focus mostly on farming, trying to hit a mid-game spike earlier than their opponents, rather than disrupting the progression of their opponents, because I think that's the safer plan, at the very least. Like, if you try and engage onto Sky and Arden, even if you're moving in with the speed boost from Merciless Pursuit, there's a good chance that with the Vanguard and a Forward Barrage, you're going to take a lot of damage and not even land your stun. By the same token, if you try and initiate with Surrey Strike and in Vanguard to dive onto the back line of the jungle duo of Salty Potatoes, you're just going to get stunned up and then turned and burned on by a Scarf group. So neither team has the engage they need, but both teams have the disengage and kite that they need, and therefore I don't think they fight. If they do fight, it's going to be messy, and it's going to be around an objective like this. Pretty easily picked up by Joker, because Tyrus burned all of his abilities kind of early. Doesn't have burst either.
Let's face check the bush, though. Class moves in with a Merciless Pursuit. Tyra is in a position where he can kind of just dance around, but Raph doesn't provide as much offensive statistics in this fight, which is an issue. And good positioning from Joker means that Forward Barrage won't find any effectivity. Joker wanting to find a Spitfire group combination. That's going to be a stun, though, onto Raph. They're looking for first blood, but it goes the way of Tyra's. Looking for a second as well. This guy is crazy good. And obviously wanting to maintain one of his positions as the best junglers in EU.
I mean, that was pretty messy as I expected it to be, but what I didn't expect was that the focus would be onto Raph. Sure, he's low, maybe you get a kill, but you've got to know that Tyrus is going to turn on you and find return kills, especially because in the early game, Forward Barrage ticks of damage do not reflect off of Stormguard until you have actually a lot of crystal power. So you're kind of... that ability almost doesn't do anything in that exchange, which basically means you're at a big deficit. Yeah, I can't say that Salty Potatoes made a decision I agree with there, but well capitalized on by SK. They did play very in and out of the edge of the fight, trying to keep Salty Potato interested, make them think they have some kind of advantage, which they certainly did not have. Off the back of that, Tyrus got both kills, so he has already picked up Frostburn and has more crystal bits on top. It's very scary going up against a Sky with lots of early crystal power.
Yeah, it really is. He's already got the Frostburn before 5 minutes, and the damage he can now output is pretty insane. Death from above won't quite find Classed here. He's going to be able to walk away. Joker, though, in a bit of trouble. And look at that slow, look at the Forward Barrage. Joker just trying to walk around it. They're splitting their focus a little bit here, SK, looking for a single kill. Not going to find anything. Fast has not finished his fountain either, so Raph was very happy to just escort Tyrus wherever he wanted to with that kill, and there wasn't really anything that Salty Potatoes could do about it.
This is scary because it reminds me a lot of the game we saw with Scarf earlier, where things got out of control kind of quickly and he was a non-factor. if we continue to see heavy pressure from SK, that could happen again. No doubt about it. Although, Catherine might be able to help defend. We'll have to see. Tyrus, I really like the discipline he's showing. He's such a measured player, He could have dived with Surrey Strike onto Joker in the previous fight, but A, it would have been near the Crystal Sentry, and that would have been risky. And B, Sneaky had just recalled, and therefore could have been on his way. Oh, nice. Sneaky actually gets the tree in there. But yeah, it was a smart decision, I think, to split focus and just force both Clast and Joker back, rather than maybe getting a kill, but maybe trade.
Yeah, this is a tough road for Salty Potatoes. I think it was probably clear that they were going to be playing from a deficit in this game. And something that, I think I've been a little bit scared about for Salty Potatoes is, can they play well enough from a deficit here? Look at SK just putting the pressure onto the Joker. That Iron Cannon, ooh, it's going to take down Sneaky. I was looking at Joker. Sneaky, I think, was expecting it to come down on Joker's head as well, and he just got taken on down. SK putting the damage down onto this turret and making it count here, AJ. Continuously pushing their advantages.
Yeah, they got pretty decent turret pushing as well. Clast kind of needs to go and stun Kavalifar or something to get him out of this one as safely as possible, although SK, we're going to play it safe too and actually back away here. I think that, yes, your point is well made about the fact that we're expecting Salty Potatoes to play from a deficit here, and it's also well made that, you wonder how they're going to do from that position. If you look at the third place matches, they had 2 flawless games and 1 game where they almost, had a flawless game against them. We've not seen them necessarily play very well from a deficit. So picking a composition that you know is not going to excel early and put pressure on your opponents is a statement from Salty Potatoes to say, we have confidence in ourselves to make this work. But it's also risky because, well, a lot of people doesn't necessarily even think that maybe they have the capability of playing from the deficit there very effectively.
This is also just the Joker falling further and further behind as this game goes on. He's only just finished his Frostburn, had to prioritize some defensive stats here, try and deal with the harass that Tyrus is outputting. This is a huge minion candied wave. That's a gauntlet being issued. Class going to be stuck in the middle of it. Pops the fountain, runs around, but he can't escape, and that's another kill going over to Kavalifar. Raph is burning, but he's safe. He has the fountain still, AJ. Just playing and waiting for his life spring to kick on in so he can heal up. SK going to take this turret here. Sneaky may want to try and find an execute. Jumping on to Kavalifar, it's not a bad shout either. Can he get the kill is the question. One more on point, may just get it. Oh, the fountain comes out, the on point misses, but he gets the execute nonetheless. And he's going to be able to save the turret through that 1-for-1 trade.
That's a pretty decent deal. You trade 1-for-1 and you save your turret. I think he's probably pretty fine with that. Plus, he got the gold from shutting down Kavalifar a little bit, stopped him from farming up, slowed him down. I like it. I like that play. I think it was effective. But ultimately, it's a very small bandage on a massive wound. Because right now, SK are definitely doing a lot of damage to Salty Potatoes. Salty Potatoes really need Joker to hit a second item, and he is so far away from that, even with the 1,000 in the bank. Unless he goes for an Eve, which is a bit cheaper, which I don't think would be the best call. I think he needs Broken Myth.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's going to go down towards the Eve just for sustain. Ooh. Sneaky taking so much damage here. He has the Coat of Plates, but it's just not enough at this point. Kavalifar has the Tension Bow and is looking for a Tornado Trigger. Through the shield, they take that turret down. Big minion wave will be eaten up here by Joker, who's just trying his best to catch up on some gold. 5-1, a 2,000 gold lead. Could become 3 if SK decide to commit to this gold miner. Dragging it out, which means that Salty Potatoes know that it has been initiated, but it could also just be a bait. Death from above going to split. Salty Potatoes try and find the kill. Kavalifar just dives forward and takes down the Joker. Sneaky may be able to get a return kill. No, Kavalifar with a double and a triple. The ace for him. They're going to get a gold miner for themselves and start doing some work to this tier 2 turret as well.
Who wore it better, Kavalifar with the weapon infusion or Joker with the crystal one? I think Kavalifar wore it significantly better. That was some hot stuff. Okay, so I was about to talk about the infusions, and I want to re-talk about it now after that fight. I think it's set up for what we saw. Joker bought an infusion, which signals 2 things to me. A, he thinks that he might want to fight soon. and B, he thinks that with an infusion he can, right? Both of those assertions are bad news, because you do not want to fight soon. Definitely not. The turret was already basically dead. There's no Kraken on the map. There's no reason to fight soon. And B, getting an infusion on just a Frostburn is not really going to do much for you, right? Whereas Kvalifar's infusion, as I said, he wore it a lot better. So I feel like there is some kind of disconnect, and you can see it from the purchase in where Salty Potatoes thinks they are and where they actually are. You know, they think they can fight with just a little extra oomph, but they can't. They definitely can't. And, you know, giving away that ace, really bad news. SK, they're feeling really good off the back of that one. It's starting to get pretty scary. Kvalifar audaciously jumping on top of Sneaky and Joker, not really worrying about it. Salty Potatoes needs a bit of a miracle here, I think.
Yeah, no, Kvalifar dives forward. Look at the damage onto all three members because it splashes. Not wanting to be grouped up, stacked up. Joker's in trouble. Class gonna lose his life. A kill over to Tyra's. SK have comfortably AJ 2-0'd every opponent this week. And if Gauntlet from Raph may not find a stun onto Sneaky or Joker, but Kvalifar is just feeling so confident. Jumps over the wall! I've only seen Druid make plays like this. Kvalifar wanting to just show that he has upped his game.
Oh, man.
Incredible stuff, as that's another kill going over towards SK. The choke point turret, 12 minutes, it's being pressured. Class loses his life. Another to Kvalifar. There's the ace, the minions in the base. Have they got the candy? No, they don't. But Kvalifar says, I don't care. I will push for the win. And chunks down that turret. SK may be overstaying here. I say that, though.
Nah,
does look like they will be able to walk away.
I think SK could have won that fight. Wow. SK, they're moving from strength to strength, Dalsy. I mean, every game we've seen them play, they've looked more convincing than the last. I really think that this is them saying, all right, you know, we're at the end of the season, basically. We got to start thinking about the championship. We're probably going to make it, so let's make it in style. Let's really practice up, be the best team we can be ahead of time. And they're putting in the hours, you can tell. You know, they're adapting things from other regions. They are playing very strategically well. Their draft is on point. Their mechanics look great. This is a team to watch, not just, you know, heading into the final week, perhaps, of the Vainglory 8 for summer, but also, I think, heading into the championship.
You know, SK, when they switched out jetpacks for Raph, I think there was a lot of questions about it, but Raph has just stepped up for the team. SK just look entirely renewed, classed. Cannot escape. Joker with the Dragon's Breath. It may do some damage. Can Sneaky find the kill into Kvalifar? Yes, he can. Okay. This is a start for Salty Potatoes. Another kill goes their way, but it's going to be Tyra's cleaning up the 1v1, the Joker matchup, the jungle matchup, and the Joker losing it to Tyra's. A triple kill for his Sky, an ace for him as well. Nothing much to get, but yet another win for SK.
Yeah, I mean, that fight was a little bit closer for Salty Potatoes. You got to question the positioning there from the side of SK. They're fighting in a choke point into a Dragon's Breath, into a 14-minute Scarf. Like, it's going to be scary no matter what. But they still make it happen. Tyrus in that 1v1 with Scarf, I mean, you could see the additional item pretty clearly through the fight. There was not much hope for Scarf there. SK, with half a minute until Kraken spawns, I'm sure have their eyes on that, as well as the prize at the end here, the W. I don't see Salty Potatoes, again, coming back without kind of a miracle, but things like that can be as small, like miracles can be small. You know, they can be as simple as your opponent's fighting in choke point and ignoring Joker for too long after he picks up a third item. That would be a miracle. That would work, potentially, for Salty Potatoes.
Miracles is probably the most clear-cut way that Salty Potatoes get back into this game. And by miracle, it's SK mispositioning. It was Kvalifar mispositioning that allowed them to take the last fight. But that is just so reliant on an SK making mistakes, and now the Kraken has spawned. You have to think whatever fun they've been having, AJ, and it certainly does look like they're having fun today, is it's about to become a little bit more serious. Time to win this game. SK gonna wisen up here. Salty Potatoes pushing fourth here, but can they afford to do so? Kvalifar just laying down auto attack after auto attack. The gauntlet won't quite catch them. Joker able to block it. Silence does go down. It's a double coming out of Class. The Dragon's Breath burning through. Salty Potatoes moving forward, but can they get anything else? Kvalifar safe on the back line, has his jump jets ready to go. Class looking for a stun, is able to land it. Oh, the Spitfire connects! And Joker now looking to try and find Tyrus as well. A serious strike to reposition, dodges out, but Sneaky jumps forward, and Tyrus will go down. It's a miracle on the Halcyon Fold! An ace for the Salty Potatoes, and they're gonna look for a Kraken.
They've got to start getting onto the carries. What is going on, Dalcy? I feel like SK are losing their minds a little bit here, or maybe I am. You know, they're not focusing targets that actually matter. They're doing so much work on the Class on the front line. They've got tools to get past him. We've seen before how much damage they do. If you Surrey strike onto the back line and jump jets and Vanguard, you're gonna blow someone up so long as it's not classed. So stop focusing classed. Salty Potatoes should not be in this game right now, but they have a new lease on life. The Kraken is pushing in their favor. What can they accomplish here is the question. I think they're probably going to get like 2 turrets. It's pretty hard for SK to deal with this push if they want to, you know, deal with the Kraken at the same time. Maybe they'll just go in and aggress on the Salty Potatoes. I wouldn't mind that play either.
The Joker takes so much damage from Kvalifar right now. Class taking up, allowing for this Broken Myth to stack up. Class is just dead here. Simply put, dead. Kraken will find the first turret, AJ. Can it find any more? Doesn't look likely. That's a bit of gold going over to Salty Potatoes, but it's going to be even more going over back to SK, who are pretty much done as far as weapon builds are concerned, but obviously need to start getting some defensives for Tyra as a reflex block and all that. He's going to get it now. He just finished for Sneaky. He's got a Shiver still as well. So 2 damage items on this Black Feather. I feel like he needs a breaking point at some point this game. He's still that Shiver still for a breaking point, but perhaps Sneaky can make it work. I don't know, man.
I don't know. I think Joker is kind of the main damage source by such a large margin that it might not even matter in a lot of these fights. That being said, as more and more shield gets picked up by SK, maybe that'll change. For now, though, I think he's doing respectable damage. SK, they need to be a little bit more decisive. They need to be, you know, jumping onto the back line, killing carries. On the side of Salty Potatoes, though, I guess just keep doing what you're doing, like trying to fight in the jungle and choke points, positions you can kite back into. I like what SK is doing. They're forcing them into the lane by flanking and then pushing forward and threatening to just end the game.
Good block. And that second silence doesn't actually connect. The Blast Tremor was in range. SK have forced a rotation here, and the ultimates from Class have been used already. Sneaky moving forward. That's going to be Class stunning up Raph. Here's the Dragon's Breath coming out, and Sneaky just trying to put the pressure onto Salty, onto SK. Kvalifar, a lot of damage, but Sneaky very low. Gonna get the Fountain. They've taken down Kvalifar once more, and Sneaky's running away with it. Raph dives forward with the blood for blood, gets one. Tyrus finds another. It's only Joker left alive here. 9 broken myth stacks on this guy, and Joker, he doesn't have a broken myth, so he can't stack up. He is just running for his life, but he's in vision right now. They know exactly where he is. The Joker knows he's done for, trying to find a kill onto Raph, but he cannot do so. Puts the goop down, but it is the ace for SK once more. Holy, this game from SK. They are looking to finish it right now. Salty Potatoes put up a grand defense. One possibly better than I expected, but they're going to...
Can they defend this? With Sneaky
5 seconds? Yeah, okay. It's only going to be 1 turret. Look at Tyra's positioning.
Yeah.
They're not going to risk it.
I like that. I don't think risking it makes sense. You put up 2 O's all weekend. Let's keep doing it, right? That's what I want to see. I have to admit, that last fight, whilst close, was definitely much better from SK. They were focusing better targets. They were able to actually create more space between them and Joker on the Scarf. Tyrus was not the main focus, which was actually a really big deal, because if Kvalifar goes down early, but does a lot of burst up front, it's kind of an equitable trade, so long as Tyrus is going to be able to be effective over the course of the longer-term fight, which he definitely was in that previous one. Right now, though, SK need to be careful not to get baited into fighting into the jungle. big part of the reason why they were successful last time is they did force Salty Potatoes to move into their court up in the lane. Look at Sneaky with the flank.
Yeah, looking for the flank. Here comes Joker as well with the Dragon's Breath straight into the gauntlet. And Sneaky looking for Tyras as well. Kavalifar very safe. Sneaky has to escape. Class moves forward. He is just going to frontline for Salty Potatoes, but SK not interested in that fight anymore. Echo and the Blast Tremors still available here for Class. The Kraken, she's respawned as well, AJ. 21 minutes. Salty Potatoes still putting up fight. Still possible for them to win team fights here and take another Kraken.
Honestly, getting that ace earlier on bought them enough gold to be competitive in these fights. It's been a huge deal. I love Joker's itemization since gone quite defensive. I think he needs to. It's making, I think it's what's giving SK pause about jumping onto him on the backline. Sneaky, again, this is another reason why you can't fight in the jungle. What we saw there was him with the flank so that he only had to walk to the fight and then he could chase the fight with all of his gap closers rather than initiating the fight with the gap closer. There's a lot of things about fighting in the jungle that are just great for Salty Potatoes. I think SK needs to be very careful not to get lured in here. It's a bit of a honey trap when you see Joker split from Sneaky like this, but it's a bad idea to try and get in that.
Yeah, Class looks for an engage, but can't quite find it. Class! He's gonna go down! There's the Blast Tremor coming out, but Tyra's able to find the kill. Joker in the midst of it all, and he will fall as well! It's only Sneaky left alive, and he's inside the gauntlet. It's a double, it's an ace, it's all over for Salty Potatoes! Another 2-0 for SK here, AJ, and they have just taken Europe by storm. Incredible performance from them all around. A team performance as well. So hard to pinpoint a single player, they're all just playing so well.
They really are. There were some dicey moments this game for sure, but they recovered from the mistakes, I think, pretty nicely. Salty Potatoes also showed some glimmers of genius. You know, they were forcing SK to think about fighting them in places that they didn't want to, but ultimately SK just had too much of a lead. I'm very excited to see where SK go in the next week and eventually once we get to the championship.
And incredible stuff for SK. And they are looking like the hope that Europe needs. Salty Potatoes, a good run. Let us not forget, they came from the Challenger Series from the last split. They've just made it to a finals week. Incredible stuff here in Europe, but from AJ and myself, Dalsey, it's us done. Let's throw it back over to the desk to break down that series.
Excellent work as ever coming out from SK Gaming as they are going to take the final 2-0 in the end. But a valiant defense coming out from Salty Potatoes. That could have been a lot more one-sided than it was in the end. They had a couple of fights where they were coming back into it, but SK are going to take it.
Yeah, Salty Potatoes, I mean, they started to find a little bit of a foothold there, but they were just too far behind at the end of the day, and SK was able to then, in the last couple of fights, just absolutely demolish.
All right, let's wind it back and start at the beginning of the game, Sweej. Like, what happened for SK to be able to grab themselves this lead?
Yeah, they did a really good job getting 2 kills. Tyrese 2v2ing and winning and getting securing those 2 kills. And then they get an ace at the 10-minute mark, gives them a full gold mine. And then from there, just they get a third turret by a 12-25-minute mark, 7k gold lead. Just a lot of nice fighting and outplays by Tyrese. He secures another ace at the 14-minute mark, and they get a second gold mine at the 14:50 mark, and that gives them like an 8k gold lead. It's insane. They try to poke turret, but Salty Potatoes does a good job of not losing a turret before the 8-minute mark. So they did a good job of defending the early game and not losing early turrets. But once SK started to get on a groove, they then took turrets quickly in succession from the 10-minute to 14-minute mark. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and they had a few team fights, and one of them where Kavalifar specifically managed to get an ace and a triple kill for himself. And it was these team fights, we'll have a look at replay of that one, that really set the tone for the rest of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And right here, this was a